Alright, reality map video, number 5, I believe. Anyway, that's what I've decided it is. So the same old bullshit, just started writing down some stuff, and I'll try to point out what the theme is. So, there's been a couple of videos made, these different people talking about how you think, and they just, I don't know, made a mess of it, in my opinion. Then there was some other guy, Gary Edwards guy, did a response video to some guy arguing that you can't naturally think because then your brain has been prejudiced by the objective, which is survival. And that doesn't make any sense because our brain doesn't produce survival. It produces tools. And the tools are made to function. That's the game. They have to be really good tools for you to survive. And survival is not going to be accomplished if the tools aren't good. So the senses are reliable, the intelligence, the function of the intelligence, the ability to recognize pattern recognition, which is the function primarily, is reliable. We can tell the difference between green and blue and red. We can put things in categories, and we see that it doesn't make errors. It finds errors. It does math and it finds the errors. It can do that. So it's just a stupid argument. It's the natural function is it's not a prejudicing function for at least the raw function of input in and output out. Now the fact that we're interested in, we have our desire mechanism and all that kind of stuff, does corrupt our ability in terms of defining goals and establishing value, and that's sort of what necessitates philosophy. I mean, really, it's all so simple. There shouldn't even be a reason to have this conversation if it wasn't for the prejudice of desire. Because the truth isn't complicated, especially isn't complicated now. I mean, we have all the instrumentality, we've dissected it well enough, we can see what makes it run, and the truth is just sitting there. It's just obvious if you're not prejudiced against it. Yeah. So anyway, so there's another argument about the idea of a creator in another universe, and that just doesn't make any sense at all, right? I mean, there's no point. This argument, it's like sometimes the religious people hold up a watch and they'll say, how did that happen? Humans are more complicated than a watch, and what they're not understanding is that watches can't be built incrementally by evolution. You can't have a goal like tell time and then expect random mutations to lead you to watch, because there'd be no way to know when you're getting close, you're getting closer, you're getting closer. There'd be no way for evolution to know, oh yeah, put a big wheel and then put a little locking thing and then have it get sprung, and couldn't do all that, couldn't figure all that out randomly. I mean, through just interactions. There'd be no selection mechanism. And so, yeah, so the point is we don't tell time, we survive. And surviving, you can do one little tiny piece at a time, one little enhancement in your toolkit. You can see another 10 feet further, you can hear another frequency higher, that kind of thing. You can modify your brain space. Your brain space can be modified where maybe you sacrifice some of your olfactory capacity or some of your hearing capacity, so now you can do language and change the world. Yeah. But that's possible when the goal is ambiguous, when the goal is just outlined as an objective that doesn't have a specific solution. There's lots of ways to survive, and that means evolution can do it. But evolution can, evolution can build great tools if it has a goal that isn't specific to a specific accomplishment. So that's the difference. Like I said, we're not watches. We don't tell time. We do a lot more than that, and we do it because we were built incrementally. We were selected for. We could be approved or disapproved with each change in the function. I didn't say that perfectly, but it doesn't matter. So anyway, so that religious argument is always just kind of bogus, because it's apples and oranges. You're not comparing the right thing. So anyway, evolution is just, this is one of the key facts. So this alternative universe isn't necessary. It doesn't, there's no way, where's this superintelligence come from? It just poofs. I mean, this is not an answer to our existence, where evolution explains it all. It's a perfectly reasonable, complete diagram, explanation for how you get to where we are right now. And but a God doesn't provide any answer. And certainly there's no answer to what God thinks or feels. Does God learn? He's been around forever. Does this machine learn, this creator? And why would something that has any intelligence at all cut itself off from communication with what it created? That doesn't make any sense at all. I mean, it's one of the fundamental premises of our understanding of how to function, to be productive, is to interact with things. That's how you create productivity, is in direct interaction. So anyway, it's a silly explanation versus evolution, which is a complete, reasonable, easy to understand. Alright, so anyway, let's just start again. The same deal. Alright, so matter creates things. Let's just accept the existence of the matter thing. Whether it's a flaw in the universe, whatever the explanation for why matter exists, who cares? It really doesn't matter. We know that we are a byproduct of fundamental elements, and that those elements are smashed into each other and they create compound matter. And we're, at our core, a compound, a DNA molecule. And it's that compound that for 4 billion years has just been modifying. And it carries the instructions that build this edifice, this ectoskeleton we call ourselves, that's really just a survival coding, a survival machine that's carrying the little piece of chemistry, the little DNA molecule that's really doing the evolving. Alright, so things have properties. We can identify the properties, and through logic and rationality and being reasonable, which are all the same thing, we properly put things in categories, and when we put something in a category, that effectively becomes a property. So properties are defined or are established. We establish categories that become properties. And so it's just, we enhance properties. And define properties that aren't obvious, like a color. Instead, you can have an abstract category like value or size or position, relative categories, categories that have something to do with relationship between things rather than thing itself. But anyway, like I said, it's all the same difference. All you do, if you're logical, you have properly identified properties and properly placed things in categories. That's logic. When you do it, when you put the wrong thing in the wrong category, you are now illogical. And if you do it to some kind of grotesque way, then you're irrational. Anyway, so the game is really, okay, so then the first property that we have, the primary property, is replication. Replication. So that's our primary property. That's the property that's responsible for everything, all the other properties. Was this replicating molecule, the DNA molecule. And so through this process of evolution, by selection, by function, and the end goal of survival. So the end goal, which is being measured, is survivability. You survive because you have functionality. You have to be more functional than the other stuff. and you'll be selected based on how functional you are, and that's basically just evolution. So what evolution does is creates tools that enhance your function and get you to survive. So it's tools, it's about these toolkits. And so your senses, your 5 senses are tools. Your thinking sense, feeling senses, call them the 6th sense, whatever, doesn't matter, are tools. Obviously your musculature, your body, all that stuff is a tool, but for the sake of intelligent conversation, we know that the real power of our function is in our scheming, conniving brain, and in the passion of our feelings that motivate us. Alright, so these feeling things create incentives, to do. It's the generator of the energy to do. And they're programmed through this attachment. So, the gang warfare thing comes into here. And again, it's all for this objective of survival. So survival is always, in some way, attempting to influence. But the one it doesn't influence too much is the thinking thing. We can think quite independently of how we feel and all these other things. We can, and it's just a matter of having the intelligence to understand that what I feel isn't the only thing that needs attention, and that often what I feel right now doesn't have anything to do with what I'll feel tomorrow. So I can understand that tomorrow's feelings can be more important than today's feelings. So I can put off gratification and do all kinds of other things because I'm smart enough to understand that my understanding should be sensibly given higher priority to my immediate feelings. So most mature human beings feel, and they don't act immediately. They think about whether that feeling needs to be acted on now, or whether it can be acted on later, or whether it can be ignored entirely. Because they're a thinking thing primarily. They feel as an incidental consequence of the biology and being human, but the focus of their perception, of their occupied trains of thought, is not completely focused on internal, it's focused on external. So yeah, we learn, that's part of the game, but the real game is that it is through thinking that we can redefine goals. So really what we're doing is changing survival. We're just saying survival isn't the only thing. It's not survival at all costs or any cost. We understand that you can't have slaves, you can't do this, you can't do that. These things are unethical. We've acquired knowledge of the gameplay, and we understand there's other values at stake beyond our own welfare. It's just obvious in playing the game. There's other things out there of equal merit to ourselves. My brain shouldn't be working any harder for my welfare than it's working for their welfare. That's just logical. The things are in the same categories. They have the same properties. There's just no way to create special properties for a special category called self, and somehow give it more importance as a fact. And certainly we feel as if it's more important because the immediacy of our personal sensations, but we can understand that it's not more important. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Alright, so again, the argument made here was just that these are good tools, they're reliable tools. This idea of pattern recognition and category creation is perfectly viable, and even though we are often tempted to pervert categories, to cheat the truth, to preserve our own ego gratification or some other emotional incentive, there's nothing preventing us from recognizing those cheats and saying, no, don't do that, that's illogical, that's unfair to the truth. And I guess, like I said, the other argument in this bubble was just that we're not watches. The goal is survival, and survival creates tools. So anyway, that's probably enough. I mean, I didn't want to get too far, just to point out that evolution provides a beautiful, I mean, it just completely answers the question of our existence. You can just see how matter complexifies. As it smashes into each other, it changes. The shape of the compounds change, and as the shape of the compounds change, their properties change. Every chemical compound has unique properties. It has a unique texture, a unique smell, unique temperature, coefficient stuff, atomic weights, all of this kind of stuff. It has unique properties, and those properties, when it's in the form of a replicating, when it's part of a replicating mechanism, those properties can be measured and for their efficiency to this goal of survival. And that's what happened on planet Earth for 4 billion years. A DNA molecule has been modified to make the carrier functional in terms of competing for survival. And so we have effective, functional, powerful tools. And fortunately for us, in the sense that we are, in the sense that, I mean, fortunate is probably not the right word, but you feel as if you should say you're fortunate to be enlightened. You're fortunate not to be owned by just a mechanical mechanism. I mean, we're fortunate in the sense that we, although it is still a mechanical process that produces our understanding, it's not quite, it's not as directly mechanical as the parts that drive our feelings and our, you know, what temperature our skin burns and all that stuff. It's not the same degree of limitation. But I guess theoretically there's no point in saying fortunately. But I'm just saying that we can sit here and have a conversation about this reality. We can dissect it, and we can talk about it and understand it and apply a real pure, clean logic to understanding our place in the universe, instead of just being a boulder rolling down a hill. Still a boulder rolling down the hill in terms of what the universe is doing, but you know, just because all the memes, all the knowledge is caught in an eddy of its own. It's constructing, it's filtering the material, and the smaller pieces are falling here and the bigger pieces are falling there, and so there's a structure to this intelligent growth, and we're all just fodder. You know, we're all just adding spin to the eddy that's creating the mountain of knowledge, this purified grit of understanding. So as much as we feel like we're inventing it, we're just the machine that makes it. But it's better to be a machine that's making knowledge than a machine that's just making poo. So anyway, that's probably enough. Yeah. So until next time, more work necessary.